Yeah, it's mindset cafe, we all about that mindset. Gotta stay focused, never settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy, Devin Gonzalez. And today we are diving into the quiet cost or the heavy burden of being the strong one, right? This is something that I've noticed in some of the members through our conversations. I've noticed this in my own, personal life, over the years, and had to, internalize it in the past. And I thought this was a great episode to kind of kick things back off with, just because I know a lot of people could probably relate to it. Right. So there's a heavy burden that comes with, being the quote unquote strong one in your circle or the strong one in your family. Right. And what I mean by that is, like, everyone needs you, but in reality, like, who's checking in on you? Right. For example, the parent who is exhaustively keeping the entire household running, right? The leader or the business owner that's shielding their team from the stress of the business, right? The friend who is almost serving as that emotional anchor for their friend group, whose phone never really just rings for their circle to check in on them and to see what's going on, right? The strong one is not the same as silent, right? The strong one often breaks quietly because everyone just assumes that they're fine. And that's what I want to kind of get into, is understanding that you being supportive and you being the strong part and you being the rock for your family, your team, it comes with a price. And you have to realize that just because you are the rock or the foundation doesn't mean you can't ask for help. And so that's what I want to really dive into today, because I feel like a lot of people almost pride themselves, and I know I did in the past, pride myself on being that strong one that everyone can rely on. But then whenever you are asked if how you're doing or if you need help, you always say that you're good, right? And I think it's because, like, the role of the strong one, and I'm just going to use that phrase as, like, the title, right? The strong one. But the role of being that strong one in the circle, right? It becomes almost like you're the fixer, you're the protector, you're that emotional shock absorber, the problem solver, and almost just that default leader. And at first, it feels almost honorable, and it feels, cool to have that title and be mentioned as that. But over time, you start to feel trapped inside of that role, right? Because, like, let's say as the fixer, like, you solve crises when others panic. If you're like the protector, you absorb any difficult situations, or you absorb that shock. And as the default leader, you step in when no one else will, and the role feels like rewarding at first, but over time, like, that, it does have a burden, and it transforms from the honorable feel to almost like you're caged inside, right? Being reliable is a strength. Being endlessly available, though, is a trap. Because if you're endlessly available, there is a quiet erosion that no one really sees, and you may not even see it at first, right? And that's the quiet cost that no one sees of being the strong one. The cost isn't always loud or super visible, right? But it can show up as fatigue, resentment, numbness, isolation, your short patience, maybe the feeling that you can't kind of just hold anything down, and you feel like you're always in chaos, right? For example, like, you're functioning at work, but when you get home, you're short with your family, or vice versa. You're with your family, and you're trying to hold everything down with your family, and then you're very short-tempered at work. You still show up, but you just feel disconnected in an area of life, right? You can carry a lot, and still need somewhere to put it down, right? You don't get extra points for holding all this extra weight just to hold it. Because if you continue to hold more and more weight and more pressure, and you're not having a place to put it down, or to isolate, or to not isolate, to alleviate or talk to or vent, right? You almost get the sense of like deep isolation, and that leads to almost this disconnect, to this numb feeling. But that erosion is the cracks in the foundation, right? You start to crack, and there's only so much weight that you can hold before you as the pillar crumble, right? And I think why strong people don't ask for help is because, they're used to being needed, not supported. And I could say that for myself is, it's good to be needed, and it's good to be the one that people call to, or call, when they need help and stuff like that. But in doing so, you don't always get the support that you want, right? Because you feel that you're burdening other people, or maybe you feel like you don't want to be judged or lose the respect of being the strong one, or even maybe admitting that you're not okay, and maybe you're not okay as you look, right? For example, as an entrepreneur, I know a lot of entrepreneurs go through this, but it's like you have this title of entrepreneur, and people know that you have your own business, and shit might be hitting the fan, and you don't want others to see it, right? And so what you do is like you hunker down, you isolate yourself from letting the stress show to the team and so forth. But in reality, like, that's when you need to ask for help, right? Because when you're handling everything and it looks easy, people still forget that it has a cost to you, right? And you will burn out at a certain point, right? Your energy will deplete. So shielding others from your discomfort or your stress or whatever is only going to add to that depleted energy, that isolation, right? Your fear of judgment most of the time is 99% of the time is in your own head, right? It is in your own head. You don't want to look like you need help because you don't want to be seen as weak, but support is not weakness. Asking for help sometimes, in having that sense of humility to let people know that you do need help, it is seen as a strength, right? I can say that there's been, a few times where things weren't okay, like with what was going on at my life at that time, and I had let someone know like what I was doing to solve it. And while it seemed like it would be beneath me to do those things, it allowed that person to open up and be like, wow, like I didn't realize, you were doing that. So, I mean, that encouraged me to go do it as well, right? Because they thought it would be beneath them as well. And so they didn't want to, so they just thought they had to struggle through it. And that's not how it works, right? You almost, that strength of being needed, it comes from you being a reliable person, a reliable friend, and so forth. And when you handle everything long enough, people start asking if you need help, because it's not because they don't care, right? But because your pattern potentially trained them to expect that you will handle it and that you're okay. And this is one of the things that was a reality check kind of thing for me, was anytime when I was personal training, especially, like I would work, 14 to 18 hour days, without exaggeration, the back-to-back clients, and I had bags under my eyes, I was tired, but anytime a client would ask me, you look tired, are you good? And I would tell them, I'm good, let's go, let's hit it. But in my head, I was like, damn, like I am tired, like I am exhausted. But admitting it to yourself, like, it only makes it worse. But at the same time, like I didn't let anyone else know what was going on, and at a certain point you do start to like crumble under it, right? So support, I want to say, is not weakness. Support is almost maintenance for you to stay strong for longer, right? So the fear, I think, is that the fear of asking for help is that we build our lives around being needed, not being supported, right? We fear burdening others and admitting our instabilities, or maybe or maybe proving we aren't as steady as we pretend to be, when in reality, if you never ask for help, people just assume that you don't need it. And over time, like, how many times are you going to ask someone if they need help and getting the same answer of no? How many more times you're going to ask them if they need help? At a certain point, you're just like, all right, they're good. Like, if they need help, they'll ask me, right? And that's where both parties go wrong, right? Because the lie is telling yourself I'm fine when you know you're not, right? Sometimes the I'm fine or I'm good means I don't have energy, maybe to explain how not fine I am, or that phrase protects everyone else from the discomfort, the stress, but it keeps you unsupported, right? You, for example, like, you say I'm good when you're in the car, at the gym, maybe in a business meeting, maybe at home, even when your body is tense and your body feels exhausted, you can feel your patience is low, right? I'm fine can become essentially the password to your own burnout, and you just keep entering that password. Stop using strength as a costume when you know your life needs support, right? Because that is all you're doing, is you're putting on the mask of I'm the strong one, or I can handle it, when in reality it's just a mask, or it's just a costume, right? There's a difference between responsibility and over functioning. What I mean by that is, like, responsibility is owning what it is genuinely yours to carry, and over functioning, you're carrying what rightfully belongs to others just because, right? Now, the responsibility of, let's say, the action of it, like, you're allowing a team member to struggle and to learn and helping them out with it because it's your responsibility to help them out with it and figure it out later. But overfunctioning is you're stepping in to rescue them and fix every mistake before it becomes a lesson for them to learn, right? And the inevitable outcome of both of those is that the responsibility aspect is it builds a healthy trust, and it builds a capable team, or it builds a capable circle. But the outcome for the overfunctioning side is it builds a learned helplessness in that team or in your circle, and a bitter resentment in you, because at a certain point you're stepping in every single time someone needs help, or stepping in before they even ask for help, and then they just now rely on you to step in anytime it starts to get a little bit hard. And at first it feels awesome that, you know, they need you and they need you to solve the problems, and you're the person, you're the guy or you're the girl that handles it all. But then at a certain point you're like, dude, like, fuck, man, like, you can do it. You've seen me do it 10 times. Just do what I've showed you to do. But you train them to let you take the load, to let you take that weight. You are not helping people grow if you keep doing their reps for them. Carry your part, stop carrying the whole room, right? You have to think of that resentment, if you're feeling it towards your team or your circle, your friends, whatever, right? It's not a flaw that you feel the resentment, but you have to realize it is data, right? Because what it feels like is, it feels like a deep frustration about being the only one who consistently plans, maybe pays, maybe cleans, or fixes things and solves problems. But in actuality, it's an indicator and a light flashing, just like in your car, it's the light flashing on your dash that a personal need has been neglected of yours, right? Or a limit has been reached. And so you have to stop feeling guilty about that resentment and stop feeling guilty about being resentful and study it. Like, the frustration is not random. It's pointing at something directly that is a structural leak or a structural weakness in your current operation of or system of communication, right? That resentment is often a boundary that has been waited too long to been set. So the boundary problem just needs to be redefined, right? If everything is urgent, then nothing is urgent. If everything is urgent, nothing is protected, right? Like, the myth of it is that boundaries mean becoming cold, distant, right? You're putting up that brick wall. When in reality, though, boundaries just mean that things are more clear, right? They protect your time, you protect your access, your emotional labor and physical labor sometimes, and physical recovery and mental recovery, right? So realize that, like, for example, like protected access, right? Intentionally delaying a text response, or blocking non-negotiable recovery evenings, or saying, I can't take that on right now, right? Those are all boundaries. Like, I can't take that on right now. You can handle it. You got this, right? Realize that a boundary is not you becoming cold. It's just you becoming clear, right? Strong people need boundaries around their time, around their access, around their mind, right? Around their money, around their work, around their recovery, let's say, right? Boundary is not a wall. It's a standard with a door. If everything is urgent, right, then nothing is urgent. If everything is urgent, nothing is protected, right? So being the strong one, I have to say, though, strong doesn't mean alone. The goal is not to stop being strong. The goal is to stop confusing strength with isolation. The real strength uses support systems, uses, rest, uses communication, and honestly, uses a true self-assessment of yourself, what you can handle, what you're going through. Do you need help, right? For example, a strong business owner gets a bookkeeper, right? They get a coach, they get an assistant, they join a peer group, right? A strong parent asks other parents for help. What are they doing? How did they solve this problem, right? Before all of a sudden you explode and yell at your kids or lash out, right? Strong does not mean unsupported. The strongest people build systems so that they do not have to survive on willpower alone, right? The strongest people build systems so that they do not have to survive on willpower alone. That is just the fact. You think is big companies are not built by one person. They're built by teams, right? A family thrives and grows not by one person, but by the whole family, a team, right? You can't have a huge friend group if it's just you, right? So it's like you have to realize that you need a system and you need to work together so that you could still be strong, but at the same time, sometimes the strongest people need support as well, right? So if you are the strong one, or if you know someone that is the strong one, I want to give you kind of a little reset plan, right? 4 steps to it. Name it, identify it, ask, set the boundary. Name it, identify it, ask, set a boundary, right? For example, the name it, right? Audit exactly what are you currently carrying? For example, like, I'm currently managing X, Y, and Z, and this is just not sustainable, right? So then you have to identify it, find the one thing that is not actually yours to carry, and think that this, for example, like this specific crisis belongs to, and then name, not me. So I'm going to give it back to this person. And then you ask, well, request one highly specific form of help for yourself. Like, you can't think they're going to read your mind, right? So, for example, like, I need you to handle dinner twice this week, or I need you to make the sales calls this evening, right? Set a boundary, establish a clear access limit this week, I need 30 minutes alone before I respond, or I'm not taking calls after 8, or I'm not taking calls before 8, whatever the case may be. But reset starts with one honest sentence, right? One honest sentence, right? Name it, identify it, ask it, set the boundary, right? And that puts me into the last aspect of this, is giving you the challenge of putting that weight down somewhere, right? In the next 24 hours, I want you to pick one responsibility, one relationship, one domain where you have been over carrying. Make it a single request, I guess I could say, and set a clear boundary within the next 24 hours, right? The thing with this is, for example, you can, ask for help at home, delegate a task at work, tell a friend the truth, block, some recovery time, stop saying yes on autopilot, right? You cannot be the strong one without being the only one. Strength that never recovers eventually becomes survival. You do not have to be the strong, you don't have to stop being the strong one. You just have to stop being the strong one alone. Plain and simple. Right? So realize that, again, guys, being the strong one, it's cool that people need you, and it feels good. It feels great that people need you, and it feels great that people can depend on you. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you never need help. It's okay to ask for help, right? It's almost admirable in most cases when the strong one asks for help, because it gives a sense of purpose, and it gives a sense of approval that asking for help is okay. Like, if you're the strong one and you're the leader, and then you ask your team for help, all of a sudden it opens up the door, like, oh shit, even he asked for help, or even she asked for help, so I can ask for help, right? It's not I don't need to have all the answers, right? I mean, even myself, I know I don't have all the answers. I ask my team, their opinions and their thoughts all the time. So my goal for you is that 24-hour challenge. In the next 24 hours, name it, identify it, right? Ask, and then set the boundary. I just have to say, if in your circle there is a strong one, or if your family or your friends are at work and you feel like they're going through this, and maybe they're the ones that always say that they're good, they're fine, because usually they're the ones not opening up, send this episode to them, right? Before they crumble under that pressure. If you guys have any questions, if you guys need any help, and you want some support, if you're the strong one, send me a DM. I got you. Okay? I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. I'll see you guys on the next one.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Just in the game of life, mindset causes shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slack.